Hey, buddy, hit that subscribe. Just a sec for you, but it means the world to me. I always knew this day was coming. When family gets too comfortable using you, the crash is never quiet. It's loud, messy, and personal. My brother Ethan's marriage didn't just fall apart. It exploded. Turns out he'd been running around behind his wife's back with someone way too close to home. When she found out, the divorce wasn't just ugly, it was nuclear. And somehow, like always, I became the solution to his disaster. I'm the successful one. Built my investment firm from scratch. No handouts, no shortcuts. But in my family's eyes, that made me their personal emergency fund. Anytime life punched them in the face, they expected me to swipe my card and clean it up. That morning, I left my front door unlocked on purpose. I'd gotten Ethan's late-night voicemail. Desperate, shaky, borderline pathetic. I knew he'd show up. What he didn't know, 5 family court judges were already watching my house live. Yeah, I came prepared. At exactly 9:43 a.m., my security feed showed my mom and Ethan walking in like they owned the place. Mom was gripping the designer purse I bought her last Christmas, like it was armor. Ethan looked wrecked. Same clothes as last night. Same excuses as always. "We need to talk about your brother," Mom shouted, already annoyed. I stayed calm. Laptop open. Red recording light glowing. In my office, they stormed in. No hello. No shame. Mom didn't even warm up. "Ethan needs $800,000 for the divorce settlement. You're paying it." I didn't flinch. "No, I'm not doing this anymore." Ethan collapsed into the chair like he was auditioning for a pity commercial, talking about how his wife was taking everything. The house, the cars, even his retirement. I reminded him why. "You cheated with her best friend for 2 years. Mom snapped instantly. "That's irrelevant. Family helps family." I pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. Funny, because I've already given him $237,000 over the last 5 years. Money that was supposed to be for his business, his kids, his mortgage. Turns out it paid for luxury vacations and his side piece. That's when Mom went low. "You're just jealous. All you do is work and count money." The irony? Wild. My success was a problem until they needed it. I stood my ground. "No money. End of story." Mom stepped closer, heels clicking like a warning. "You ungrateful little. After everything we've done for you?" I finally said what I'd buried for years. "What exactly have you done for me?" That question flipped a switch. Ethan exploded, yelling about how I got lucky. Lucky? I worked 80-hour weeks for a decade, lived in a shoebox apartment, ate instant noodles while he used my money to flex sports cars. Then Mom screamed a line that changed everything. "If you don't pay, you're no longer part of this family." And then she slapped me. Hard. Rings cut my cheek. Blood hit my collar. Ethan smirked. Mom leaned in, hissing, "Pay up, or I expose your little college secret." I touched my bleeding cheek and smiled. "You mean when you and Dad stole my college fund, and I worked 3 jobs to survive? Go ahead. Tell everyone." She raised her hand again. I stopped her cold. I wouldn't. A second assault would just make the judges angrier. Silence. Ethan froze. "What judges?" I turned my laptop toward them. 5 live courtroom feeds. 5 judges watching everything. And the recording light blinking like a heartbeat. Mom's face went ghost white. That's when the front door knocked. "Miss Carter, this is Detective Reynolds. We need to speak with your mother." And that's when everything finally caught up to them. They thought the worst was over when the police arrived. But they had no idea the evidence already in motion was about to destroy everything they tried to hide for years. The moment the cops stepped inside my house, the energy flipped completely. Mom tried to act confused, like this was all some big misunderstanding. Ethan, on the other hand, panicked. You could see it in his eyes. The kind of fear that hits when someone realizes the game is finally over. Detective Reynolds didn't waste time. He looked straight at my mom and said, "Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions regarding an assault and attempted coercion." She laughed. Actually laughed. "This is ridiculous. She's my daughter." Reynolds didn't even blink. Then you should have kept your hands off her. That line hit hard. While another officer escorted Mom toward the door, Ethan rushed to my desk, grabbing for my laptop like a desperate kid trying to erase browser history. Turn it off. You can't use that. I leaned back calmly. Relax. It's already backed up. 5 locations. Judges don't like missing footage. His face went pale. Real pale. As they were led outside, Mom twisted back toward me, venom dripping from her voice. You destroyed this family. I met her eyes without flinching. No, I just stopped paying for the damage. The house went quiet after they left. Too quiet. My cheek throbbed, but I barely noticed. The adrenaline was still pumping. Detective Reynolds stayed behind to take my statement, but we both knew this was bigger than a simple police report. My phone buzzed. Diana, my attorney judges want you downtown. Now. Yeah, that fast. The courthouse felt colder than usual, like the walls themselves were judging everything that walked inside. Diana flipped through documents as we waited outside Judge Holloway's chambers. All 5 judges requested your footage, she said. And honestly, you just cracked open something way bigger than a messy divorce. That's when I knew this wasn't ending clean. Inside the room, the atmosphere was heavy. 5 judges sat around a long table. No small talk, no smiles, just a video pause on screen. My mom's hand mid-slap, rings catching the light. Judge Holloway spoke first. Ms. Carter, how long has your family been financially dependent on you? I swallowed. 8 years. It started small. Emergency money. A few thousand here, a few thousand there. Judge Simmons finished the sentence for me. And escalated. I nodded. After Ethan's affair came out, it got out of control. Diana slid a file across the table. Total transfers, $812,000. That doesn't include the stolen college fund. The room went dead silent. Then Judge Holloway dropped the bomb. Ms. Carter, were you aware your brother listed you as a financial guarantor in his divorce filings? My stomach dropped. What? Judge Alvarez pushed documents toward me. He submitted paperwork, claiming you agreed to cover his debts. I stared at the pages. The signatures were perfect. Too perfect. That's not my signature, I said firmly. It's copied. Diana nodded. They lifted it from legitimate business contracts. Judge Holloway leaned back slowly. That's forgery, and potentially federal. Right on cue, my phone buzzed again. Ethan, fix this. Or I'll tell them everything about your company. I didn't even hesitate. I handed my phone to the judges. He's been threatening me for months, I said. I've documented everything. Judge Simmons scribbled notes. The FBI will want those messages. Then came the question that stung the most. Why didn't you come forward sooner? I stared at my hands. Because they're my family. Every time I tried to say no, they'd guilt-trip me. Cry. Use the kids. I kept thinking maybe they'd change. Diana added quietly, until today. Judge Holloway nodded. We're issuing an immediate restraining order. No contact. No access to your accounts. My chest loosened for the first time in years. Then my phone buzzed again. Mom, after everything we sacrificed for you. Judge Alvarez glanced at the screen inside. That's not sacrifice. That's manipulation. As we walked out, Diana squeezed my shoulder. They can't touch you anymore. I wanted to believe her. In the parking lot, reality punched me again. My car, keyed from front to back. Deep scratches carved into the paint. Traitor. I just stood there, stunned. Diana started taking photos while I called the police. Another text popped up, this one unexpected. Amanda, Ethan's soon-to-be ex-wife, thank you for telling the truth. I knew something wasn't right. For the first time that day, tears hit my eyes. Not from pain, not fear, relief. The lies were finally cracking. I thought the restraining order was the end of it. I was wrong. Because what the FBI uncovered next would turn a family scandal into a full-blown federal case. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mom's hand midair, Ethan's smirk, my name forged on documents I'd never touched. Years of pressure, guilt, and manipulation were finally catching up, and my body felt it. By morning, my phone was already blowing up. Blocked numbers, fake accounts, voicemails that jumped from crying to threatening in seconds. That's when Diana called. "Don't panic," she said calmly. But the FBI officially opened a financial crimes investigation. I let out a slow breath. "So it's real." "It's very real," she replied. "And it's not just about the divorce anymore." At the federal building, everything felt clinical and heavy. No family drama vibes. No emotional speeches. Just facts, numbers, and consequences. 2 agents met us in a conference room, Agent Miller and Agent Brooks. Straight faces. Sharp eyes. The kind of people who already know the truth before they ask the question. Agent Miller opened a laptop and rotated it toward me. "Ms. Carter, your brother and mother didn't just commit fraud against you. They've been doing this to banks, businesses, and even relatives." My stomach tightened. Agent Brooks continued. "We've identified over $2 million in fraudulent loans, forged guarantees, and hidden assets." $2 million. I shook my head slowly. I had no idea it went that far. "That's common," Miller said. "Family fraud thrives on trust." They showed me timeline shell accounts, fake LLCs. All roads led back to Ethan, with Mom pulling strings behind scenes. She handled the pressure, Brooks added. Emotional leverage, guilt, control. That hurt more than the numbers. Then came the twist. "Your brother didn't just forge your signature," Miller said. "He tried to make you the financial fall guy if this collapsed." I felt sick. "Diana, clench your jaw. So if this blew up—" "You'd be liable," Brooks confirmed. "That's why he pushed so hard for you to pay the settlement." It wasn't desperation. It was a setup. Later that afternoon, Amanda asked to meet. We sat across from each other in a quiet cafe. 2 women wrecked by the same man in different ways. She looked exhausted but clear-eyed. "He drained our kids' college funds," she said softly. "And every time I questioned it, he told me I was bad with money." I swallowed hard. "He said the same thing about you to me." We both went quiet. That's when something shifted. This wasn't just about revenge or justice anymore. It was about stopping a pattern. "I'm testifying," Amanda said firmly. "So am I," I replied. That night, the fallout hit fast. News articles popped up. Local businessman investigated for financial fraud. Divorce case spirals into federal probe. Ethan texted one last time before his phone went dark. "You think you won? You just burned everything." I stared at the message and finally understood something. I hadn't burned anything. I'd exposed it. 3 days later, agents showed up at my office. They walked Ethan out in handcuffs. No smirk this time. No excuses. Just panic. Mom was arrested the same day. As they passed me, she finally looked small. Not angry. Not manipulative. Just empty. That evening, I stood alone in my office, staring at the same desk where everything began. The bruise on my cheek was fading, but the clarity wasn't. For the first time in my life, I wasn't fixing their mess. I was letting them face it. I thought the arrest would bring closure. But the hardest day was still ahead, sentencing, where I'd have to face them one last time and decide whether silence or truth would end us for good. Sentencing day didn't feel real. I sat on the hard wooden bench inside the federal courtroom, hands folded, heart pounding like it was trying to break free. The room smelled like old paper and cold air, the kind of place where excuses come to die. Across the aisle sat Ethan and my mom. No designer purse this time. No confident posture. Just orange jumpsuits and regret they couldn't talk their way out of. Amanda sat beside me. At some point, without even thinking, we reached for each other's hands. Not as sisters-in-law, but as survivors. The clerk called. "All rise." Judge Reeves entered, calm but deadly serious. You could feel the weight of everything Ethan and my mom had done pressing down on the room. Before sentencing, the judge allowed victim impact statements. My legs felt shaky as I walked to the podium. I looked straight at them. "For years, I began I believe family meant sacrificing everything: my money, my peace, my future. My mom started crying, soft at first, then louder. I didn't stop. I thought love meant giving until it hurt. What no one ever taught me was the difference between support and exploitation. Ethan stared at the table. Mom wiped her eyes, waiting for sympathy. They weren't getting it. You didn't just steal my money, I continued. You stole my trust. You turned my success into an obligation. Every achievement became something I owed you. I paused, steadying my breath. The slap that day wasn't the first act of violence. It was just the first one caught on camera. The real damage was years of emotional control, guilt, and fear. Silence filled the courtroom. Then Amanda stood, with a shaking voice. She told the truth about the drained college funds, the lies, the manipulation, the gaslighting, about being made to feel stupid, while Ethan played provider with stolen money. Judge Reeves listened carefully, hands folded. When we finished, he leaned forward. Mrs. Carter, Mr. Carter, your actions show a calculated pattern of financial abuse targeting your own family. He paused. The court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison for financial fraud, with additional time for assault and attempted extortion. My mom let out a broken sob. Ethan finally looked at me. Please, he whispered. The kids need their dad. I met his eyes, calm and steady. They need their future more. Then I dropped the final truth. I've already set up new trust funds for them, ones you can't touch. The color drained from his face. Outside the courthouse, the air felt lighter, like I could finally breathe. Amanda hugged me tight. It's over, she said. I shook my head slightly. Almost. Because as healing began, purpose followed. I thought sentencing was the end of the story. But what I did next turned years of pain into something that would help hundreds of people, and it all started the very next morning. The morning after sentencing felt quiet. No chaos. No angry calls. No guilt text disguised as love. Just silence. For the first time in years, my phone didn't feel like a weapon in my pocket. I sat in my office staring at the skyline, thinking about everything that had been taken from me. Not just money, but time, peace, confidence. And that's when it hit me. If this could happen to me, how many other people were trapped in the same cycle? That question wouldn't let go. A week later, I stood in front of my company's board. I'm launching new initiative, I said. A foundation focused on family financial abuse prevention. A few eyebrows raised. No one laughed. I explained how emotional pressure, guilt, and family obligation are used to drain victims dry. Quietly, legally, and for years. How most people don't even realize they're being abused until they're drowning. Using part of the recovered funds, we built it fast. Legal resources, financial education, emergency protection for victims trying to escape family exploitation. Diana joined as legal director. Amanda helped shape programs for parents and kids. Pain became purpose. The foundation's first case came quicker than expected. A young startup founder sat across from me, hands shaking, eyes red. My parents say I owe them, she whispered. They want me to sell my company to pay my brother's gambling debts. I felt a chill. I pulled out my phone and showed her my mom's final text, sent just days before sentencing. A real daughter would have protected her family. I looked her in the eyes. Real family doesn't destroy you to save themselves. She cried, and for the first time, I knew we were doing something that mattered. 6 months later, I received a letter from my mom's prison counselor. She'd finally admitted the pattern, acknowledged the manipulation, asked if I'd visit. I wrote back one sentence. When you respect my boundaries as much as you want forgiveness, we can talk. No anger, no guilt, just truth. Ethan's kids started visiting me once a month. We never talk about their dad. We talk about goals, boundaries, money without shame. Their new college funds were locked tight, safe from anyone who thought love came with a price tag. One evening, I found an old family photo album. Looking through it, something clicked. The family I mourned never really existed. It was a story built on my sacrifice and their demands. But from the ashes, something real had grown. Chosen family, healthy boundaries, Peace. I thought healing meant moving on quietly. But one final moment, one simple decision, would bring everything full circle and close the chapter for good. 1 year later, I stood in the same office where everything finally snapped. The scar on my cheek from my mom's rings had faded, but the lesson? That stayed permanent. I scrolled to my phone, hovering over one last contact. Mom. I kept the number archived for months. Not blocked, not erased. Just there, like a door I didn't know anyone the right to walk through. The screen asked, "Are you sure?" That question felt deeper than a phone setting. Was I sure I deserved peace? Was I sure love shouldn't hurt? Was I sure family doesn't get a lifetime pass to break you? Yeah, I was sure. I tapped delete. And just like that, the weight I'd carried for years finally lifted. Later that week, I attended a foundation meeting. The room was full. Survivors, advocates, people who'd spent years thinking they were the problem. One woman spoke up. I thought I was selfish for saying no. I shook my head. No is how you save yourself. Heads nodded. Some people cried. Others smiled like they'd just been given permission to breathe. That's when I realized something powerful. Boundaries don't destroy families. They expose which ones were real. After meeting, Amanda and the kids came by. We cooked dinner, laughed, argued over movies, normal stuff, healthy stuff. Later that night, her oldest looked at me and said, "Annie, you're not mad at Dad anymore, right?" I knelt down to his level. "I'm not mad," I said honestly. "I just won't let him hurt anyone again." He nodded like that made perfect sense. Because it did. Weeks later, I received one final letter from my mom. No excuses. No guilt. Just 4 words. I finally understand now. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, not as an invitation, but as closure. Standing at my office window that evening, I looked out at the city lights and smiled. The family I lost, it was never really there. But the family I built, that was real. Friends who respected boundaries. Children who felt safe. A life where love didn't come with conditions. Some people think walking away is weakness. It's not. It's strength. Sometimes the bravest thing you could do is say no, even to the people who share your blood. Sometimes the truest form of family is the one you choose. And sometimes the highest form of self-love is protecting yourself from those who claim to love you most. And that was the moment I finally chose me.